Hey, seen any Tyrannosauruses recently? Or mammoths? I didn't think so. They're all extinct. So, what about great philosophers? Seen one of them lately? The Essence of Reality explores how the psyche which you are creates the reality you encounter. Hey there, you found the essence of reality. We explore consciousness here, the nature of your own existence, how reality actually works. Common paradigms like religion and science simply don't describe experienced reality, and worse yet, if you believe in them, they distort your perception of life's real flow. You create your life qualities. No God does, no external power source does, you do. If you want to see just how that works, listen with an open mind, and hey, come back again. We have lots to cover here. This issue delves into philosophy with a scratch of the head, wondering what ever became of original thinking. Without the great philosophers of ancient times and the input of original thinkers through European history particularly, we would still be barely out of the Bronze Age. It took courageous original thinkers to break away from organized religion, to challenge their stronghold on mankind's thinking. The church held that the sun, stars, and planets circled a stationary earth. It took Copernicus, Kepler, Bruno, Galileo, and other brave men to stand up to rigid, archaic thinking and change the way we see the earth. Socrates, Plato, Heraclitus, Zeno, Aristotle, Epicurus, and other Greeks laid the path to more reasoned thinking, but it took 2 millennia from their time before philosophers could actually look at reality with reason and examination. Rational thinking and empiricism only became useful from about the 17th century onwards. First, they had to be invented as devices of thinking, and second, they had to overcome the powerful, authoritarian, and highly vindictive Catholic Church, fighting enlightenment and free thinking all the way. But what has happened to philosophers in recent times? Where are the free thinkers like Kant, Fichte, Locke, Spinoza, Nietzsche, Bacon, and Descartes? Is reality now fully defined? Or is it just that thinking is now frozen into science, like it used to be into religion? Tom Nehrer here, Exploring Consciousness. Insights here add to my website, my books, and hundreds of talks I've given to open-minded groups. From a mystic experience years ago, through my long inner journey, I've come to see the oneness of things. You're connected to life events and relationships, not separate and apart as science and religion imply. Aware of that connection, you can improve real life in all ways by finding and changing inner roots to outer problems. I call this level of perception clear awareness, bypassing beliefs to clearly see how life works. A lot of archaic beliefs needed to be bypassed for man to outgrow old religions and superstitions. That task required bold, free-thinking philosophers. And more flawed beliefs need to be bypassed now. But where is the realm of philosophy? Where are those truly free thinkers now that we really need them? In times past, great philosophers arose from mundane backdrops to thrust mankind towards seeing life more clearly. René Descartes spurred reasoned thinking as early as 400 years ago, not only adding to mathematical analysis, but moving philosophy itself forward. John Locke, not a century later, cleared the way for the emergence of democracy by exposing royalty as simply the guys with control and weapons, no divine right to govern, as had been widely believed. This bold stance led directly to the formation of American democracy. Thomas Jefferson and other founding fathers directly referenced Locke when they wrote the Declaration of Independence and later the Constitution. There would be no royalty in this new world. Without Locke and his bold stance, in the face of the British Crown of his day, seeds of ideas condoning government by consent of the people would not have sprouted in North America. Without Kant and Hume, we would have much less of a grasp of the workings of our own minds. Without Plato and Aristotle, none of those others would have been able in their time to grow beyond standard thinking. Without Berkeley and Hegel, Heidegger and Nietzsche, Scotus and William of Ockham, Fichte and Schelling, we simply wouldn't be where we are today. It has always, always, always been difficult to move beyond common thinking to see life more clearly. Outside of pure visionaries, it's been the great philosophers who have thrust man's view beyond its old limitations. But where, I have to ask, where are great philosophers today? Where are those brilliant eccentrics moving our thinking forward from a still troubled time? It's as though all the great ideas have already been conjured up, that life is so well defined in the scope of modern understanding that the only thing left is to work out a few minor details. That's actually exactly where philosophy rests in the early 21st century. There are two basic schools of modern philosophical discipline, the analytic and continental. The analytic, which dominates much of the North American scene of academic study, looks into deep analysis of specific points. Sequestered, essentially, in universities, analytic philosophy departments pass out degrees to those who fit neatly into its foregone focus on minutiae concerning epistemology, existentialism, pragmatism, logic, ethics, and a whole host of other ologies and isms. The continental branch of philosophy, rather European-based, looks more at life and the value of philosophy, the human condition and so forth. But of course, it looks backwards too, generally framing argument and conjecture on past conclusions by the great philosophers. The very ability to see outside the framework of standard thinking is at least as long gone as Ludwig Wittgenstein. We are at least a century removed from any great idea being revealed by a philosopher. Both branches of modern philosophy are frozen into glacial ideas, ice-packed and elevated, clinging to intellectual mountaintops, oozing only slowly and melting well before they reach the common man in the valleys below. Both branches have basically forgotten this simple truth, that philosophy should describe reality and the consciousness that experiences it. Academic philosophy, rather, now nurtures a grand and sophisticated collection of mere ideas, rationally pleasing to the intellectually aloof, but not reflective of reality. The field has completely let it slip that philosophy should clarify real life, not just recycle and polish to an ever finer shine its grand and impressive conceptualizations. Philosophy now is fused with academic institutions and confused by thinking that spouting off old ideas in ever more complex terms is philosophy. It isn't. In actuality, there's a major difference between the philosophy student or a philosophy adherent and a real philosopher. There are in current times thousands of philosophy students and aficionados. They sport anything from a bachelor's degree to multiple doctorates. But advanced degrees in philosophy don't make you a philosopher. Being able to argue complex points of predetermined intellectual finery doesn't make you a philosopher. Peer recognition and colored robes touted during graduation ceremonies don't make you a philosopher. Thinking outside common boundaries to find greater insights into real life, that's what makes you a philosopher. Right now, there are no philosophers. Zero. And that's not Zeno, founder of Stoicism. That's zero as in none. Real philosophers are extinct. They're all dead long since. Philosophers, the great ones, broke mankind away from his old non-functional modes of thinking so that life could be improved, so that clear understanding could result. There were many great ones in the past, vital to bring us into modern times, such as this conflict-infested, polluting, drug-dependent, troubled society can be deemed modernity, but there are no philosophers today. Consequently, philosophy has absolutely no impact on modern thinking. It's a fully institutionalized venture, praising its professors and defenders for the cleverness, arguing ad infinitum over conceptualized truths of no real consequence. It's as dusty, decayed, and desiccated as the tomes of those olden day brilliant men who were philosophers. Strangely, while I personally in no way pretend, claim, or wish to be a philosopher, let alone a great one, I am much closer to that status than any current academician sporting advanced degrees as vaunted specialist in other people's thinking. With my books, many talks, my website, and these videos, I'm spurring open-minded individuals like you across the world to see life more clearly, to outgrow old thinking. That's what the great philosophers from ancient times through the 19th century did. But the difference is, philosophy, now heavily encumbered with backward-looking educational institutions, has always rested on early philosophers' greater perspectives. From Kant onwards, for example, German thinking rested a great deal on argument for and against Kant's views. My point is much simpler. You have to jettison philosophy, just as you must rid yourself of religion and science in order to see clearly and directly your own personal connection with the reality you encounter. Whatever you believe in seems to be true. The mind is easily duped by ideas. It will interpret your held notions as true regardless of their viability. Modern philosophy students and adherents don't grasp this limitation. They become so enamored with complex philosophical jargon that mere ideas take on a wonderful sheen of veracity, all the while hiding reality out of view behind them. Once stuck in philosophy, irrelevant whether continental or analytical, the student's mind is so smitten with argument and proof it can never see that the whole complicated proposal constitutes nothing more than a bunch of ideas which don't describe reality. And philosophy, like religion and science, always colors perceived reality to fit its description. So, what became of original thinking? It's alive and well, here. But it's as dead as Nietzsche's God in philosophy. Hey, see you around. More to explore. Without the great philosophers of ancient times and original thinkers through European history, we would still be barely out of the Bronze Age. Rational thinking and empiricism only became useful from about the 17th century onwards, and they had to overcome the powerful, authoritarian, and highly vindictive Catholic Church, fighting enlightenment and free thinking all the way. Without Locke and his bold stance, government by consent of the people would not have sprouted in North America. Without Plato and Aristotle, none of those others would have been able in their time to grow beyond standard thinking. But where are great philosophers today? Where are those brilliant eccentrics moving our thinking forward? Philosophy should describe reality and the consciousness that experiences it. Academic philosophy, rather, now nurtures a grand and sophisticated collection of mere ideas, rationally pleasing to the intellectually aloof, but not reflective of reality. Advanced degrees in philosophy, being able to argue complex points, peer recognition and colored robes, don't make you a philosopher. Thinking outside common boundaries to find greater insights into real life, that's what makes you a philosopher. Real philosophers are extinct. They're all dead long since. Philosophy has absolutely no impact on modern thinking. It's as dusty, decayed, and desiccated as the tomes of those olden day brilliant men who were philosophers. Whatever you believe in seems to be true. The mind is easily duped by ideas. Modern philosophy students and adherents don't grasp this limitation. So, what became of original thinking? It's alive and well, here. But it's as dead as Nietzsche's God in philosophy.